and welcome back for race 3. Earlier today, we saw Renault VK take his second victory of this weekend with a dominant performance. But the titled favorite, Dan Ticktum, could only finish 6th after a difficult race, and looking for a better result today. But before the race starts, let's have a quick look of the Asian Winter Series.
Thanks, Feline. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buriram for race 3 of the 2019 Asian Winter Series. The third race of this, the first of 3 rounds. And this is, of course, the first ever Asian Winter Series. There is much to learn. There's many unknowns, and we have a quick video for you now just explaining a little bit more about the series, the teams and the drivers.
The start of a new year heralds the dawn of a new era in motorsport as the first ever Asian Winter Series kicks off this weekend here at the Chang International Circuit in Buriram, Thailand, for the first of 3 rounds taking place in January and February. Series chief Davide De Gobbi has more on the new championship.
It's a new experience. I mean, we are starting this new championship during winter. We started last year with the Asian Championship, and it was a good success. New car, new naming, so it was really something new that Asia needed. We have found out that there was a lot of demand from local drivers and also from European drivers to come for testing, test this new car that will be actually the new Formula 3 for all over the world now. It's a new series, so for us it's something new. We have several drivers from Europe. We have, so for us it's always a challenge because we would like to welcome them and show that in Asia we can have a competition at high level. So from the sporting point of view, from the technical point of view. I'm really looking forward for these 3 rounds, and I'm sure we will have a good races.
One driver making her single-seater debut in the Asian Winter Series is Vivian Castelli. 2018 saw the Hungarian finish runner-up in the Audi Sport Seyfert R8 LMS Cup, and she explains the challenge in acclimatizing to her new car.
I'm really surprised because this is my actually really first time to drive this car. This weekend is all about, and also the next weekend, to learn the car and trying different setups. So I mean, it wasn't easy from a GT car to get into the Formula 3. It would have been easier the other way around. But I'm really happy that I got to know to drive this car and get to know the limits of the car.
Also on the grid here in Buriram is David Schumacher, son of ex-F1 racer Ralph and nephew of 7-time F1 champion Michael. Racing in the Asian Winter Series for Pinnacle Motorsport, Schumacher finished 2nd in last year's German F4 Championship and is hopeful of a good showing here this weekend.
We are here for this race now, and I would like to get the best out of it. We have to see how is the car, and we have another test tomorrow, so hopefully it will be good, and we have a good setup for qualifying and for a good setup also for the race. So yeah, everything is open to get good results and hopefully some podiums.
Also lining up in Buriram is Dan Ticktum. The Briton is a 2-time winner of the prestigious F3 Macau Grand Prix and hopes to add the Asian Winter Series title to his ever-expanding trophy cabinet. But while he might be the early favourite, Ticktum is expecting a tough battle with the other racers.
But the pace of the car is really good. I would say the best it has been over the last couple of days. Right time for it to be good, so yeah, very happy. There's always people that sort of come through and surprise you, but I think we've got 3 or 4 drivers here that are definitely going to keep me on my toes, which is nice. Yeah, we'll see. I'll have to obviously prepare my best and do my best, and hopefully I'll take the title.
Well, as Feline explained earlier on, race 2 this morning saw a very good performance and another victory, 2 wins out of 2 this weekend for Rinus VK, and the Dutch driver now firmly at the top of the Asian Winter Series standings. Dan Ticktum, the series favourite, has had a bit of a difficult weekend so far, retiring in the first race and only 6th in the second race after finishing 3rd on the road but receiving a 10-second time penalty. So now let's go and see some of the best action from race 2 this morning. Rinus VeeKay on pole position there, got a decent start, but Dan Ticktum on the left of your picture there got an even better getaway and led into the first corner with Rinus VeeKay second and Alex Guiretti settling into third place just behind. Ralf Schumacher there, the father of David Schumacher, watching on. And some good battles further down the field. That was Pavan Ravishankar and David Schumacher in the number 65 car getting through. But Dan Ticktum there on the right-hand side, and Rinus VeeKay taking back the lead at the hairpin at turn 3. And Rinus VeeKay was to hold that lead for the rest of the race. Dan Ticktum pushing hard for a few laps, but eventually faded and finished third. The high-tech mechanics there looking very happy as Rinus VeeKay rounded the final corner to win just ahead of Chinese driver Ye Yifei in the number 16 Absolute Racing car. David Schumacher completing the podium, and the top 3 drivers there enjoying themselves after a good morning's racing here in Buriram. Rinus VeeKay winning 2 out of 2 races so far, and he'll be hoping for a hat-trick, but he'll have to face some very strong competition from Ye Yifei, who was pushing very hard in second place towards the end and might well have overtaken Rinus VeeKay.
Hi Mark, great of having you here today. And could you please explain to our audience about how do you balance, how GT balance the grip and the durability?
Well, this is a good question. As you see, the tires are the only part that contain the surface. That means all the power generated by the engine will transform to the track only by these 4 blank tires. So that how to balance the grip and durability are really very important for every tires. First of all, the grip, excellent grip, will help the driver control the cars better, especially in the acceleration, braking, and cornering. Moreover, we also need to concern the durability, especially in such a hot condition. Our engineers found that the tire temperature will reach near 90 degrees in a few laps, so that how to keep the high performance in the whole race in such hot weather is really a big challenge for us. Therefore, when we design our tires in our R&D center, we have done a lot of simulations and testings based on our super computers and testing machines to find the best balance between grip and durability. Then in the manufacturing process, all the materials are bought from the best suppliers from all the world. And also the building machines are very high technology and special. All these we have used just to make sure all the tires have a good, consistent performance, both in grip and durability. Well, I think the drivers will enjoy the hot seat with our tires' excellent performance. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, and great of having you here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 刚刚呢，我问到 Mark， 就是我们如何能保证轮胎它有很好的抓地力的同时，又能保证这个轮胎可以的耐久性。那么他也提到呢，在轮胎呢是一个非常重要的环节，它会影响到我们这个比赛当中的，比如说这个过弯、刹车，甚至是就是这个超越，都可能会影响到这个，都是和轮胎的使用息息相关。尤其是像在这种高温的情况下，这个轮胎可能会达到90度的高温。为了能达到最好的效果，所以他们在实验室里也是不断的在研发，不断的在做实验，而且用非常好的材料，把世界上所有好的材料都拿出来，做一个特别的配方，用于咱们这个 F3的这个轮胎当中。
Well, interesting to hear from Mark Zhu there, the manager of GT China, who provide the control tyres that all the cars use. They're all the same, and a very interesting challenge posed for the tyre manufacturers here in how to get the right balance between grip and durability. And in Thailand here and in Malaysia next weekend, it's obviously very hot, and that has a significant bearing on the tyres as well. The tyres obviously need to be very warm, but you don't want to overheat the tyres, and then you'll end up getting blisters on them. Let's take a look at the starting grid now. Dan Ticktum in pole position after having achieved the fastest qualifying time in the second qualifying session yesterday. And alongside him on the second row, in second place, on the front row, I should say, is Ye Yifei, the Chinese driver who's shown so much promise so far this weekend, finishing a very close second behind Rinus VeeKay in race 2 earlier today. And it is Rinus VeeKay in fourth position there, just behind his teammate Alessandro Giretti, who is in third place after finishing in fifth position in race 2 earlier today. Rinus VeeKay, of course, winning earlier today and winning race 1, so sitting pretty at the top of the championship table. Further down the grid, looking at row 3, we have the number 15 car of Ishan Pieris, who unfortunately was not able to take the start in this morning's race. He had a problem, stalled on the grid, and unfortunately wasn't able to take the start. So bitter disappointment for Ishan Pieris, and he'll be looking, no doubt, for a much, much better showing this afternoon. Alongside him, in sixth position, is Tomoki Takahashi, who had a fantastic battle in this morning's race with Amaury Cordial in the number 88 car. On row 4, it's Akash Nandi, the Malaysian driver in the 29 Pinnacle Motorsport car. And alongside him, the number 2 high-tech of Pavan Ravishankar, who finished fourth in this morning's race, just behind David Schumacher, who you see there in 10th place on the grid, just behind Amaury Cordial, who had a very, very good battle with Tomoki Takahashi earlier on. And bringing up the rear is Vivian Kistei, the Hungarian driver in the number 7 Black Arts Racing. And she's just ahead of Tairoku Yamaguchi, who races in the Masters category in the number 28 B-Max Racing Team car. All the cars ready to go on the grid. Most of the mechanics and engineers just walking in now. Just a few people left on the grid, final preparations being made, and we'll be underway for race 3 here in Buriram very shortly indeed. Dan Ticktum there at the front left of your picture, and that very distinctively liveried high-tech car will be looking for a much, much better showing today. He had to retire in race 1 after what was a rather scrappy opening. He managed to claw his way back up to third position, but unfortunately a failure on the car meant he wasn't able to finish. And then in this morning's race, he managed to get the lead from Rinus VeeKay, but then Rinus VeeKay took it back, and Ticktum looked as if he was in a position to challenge for the lead, but then seemed to tail off as the race went on, and then in fact was overtaken late on in the race by Ye Yifei. So he finished third on the road, and then to add insult to injury was handed a 10-second penalty for exceeding track limits. So Dan Ticktum only classified 6th in this morning's race, so he really needs a win in this race now, in this third race of 9 to be held in this Asian Winter Series, if he's to start making his way up the championship standings. He's probably the championship favourite, or he was before yesterday's race, and he'll desperately be wanting to get a win under his belt and get some momentum going before the field heads to Sepang next week for round 2 and the next 3 races of this 2019 Asian Winter Series. All the mechanics, all the engineers off the grid now, and the car's just waiting for those green lights at the top of your screen to appear. Once those green lights go on, that's the start of the formation lap, when they'll start weaving from side to side, getting some temperature into those tyres and getting some temperature into those brakes, and just making sure the car and everything is set up as it ought to be as they set off on this, the formation lap. Already you see the cars there weaving just to try and get some temperature into those tyres. We heard from Mark Dew just now on the grid about how difficult it is to get the right balance between grip and durability. If the tyres aren't grippy enough, then you'll end up sliding and spinning off the road. But if they're not durable enough, then they'll start blistering, and then that's not very helpful for the cars either. So very important to get the right mixture of grip and durability. And of course these tyres only work when they're up to temperature. So if they're cold, they're really not very effective at all, and that's why you see the cars weaving left and right, desperately trying to get a little bit of heat into those tyres. It's a little bit later on in the day now. We've just had a 4-hour race in the Asia Le Mans series beforehand, so the track should be well rubbered in, lots of grip, but the track temperature might start to drop shortly, and that will have a bearing on how effective the tyres are as well. You see the 28 car there of Tairoku Yamaguchi bringing up the rear, and we get some very nice close-up shots of these cars, and you can see the prominent halo that goes around the driver's head, and that is a safety measure to help protect the driver in the event of a collision, and that's something that's been standardized into single-seater racing the world over in the last couple of years, and a very effective safety measure it is too. The car's just coming round the final corner now, bunching up, just weaving for the final time, desperately keeping those temperatures up. Dan Ticktum there at the front of the grid, and you can see the tyre marks that the cars are leaving behind on the formation lap, and that's to just try to put some rubber down on the grid for when they start, because it's very difficult to make a good standing start, especially if you're on the right-hand side of the track as you look at it now, because that's not the racing line. The racing line is towards the left that they'll be driving on usually in the middle of the race, and that you would think would have much more grip. But all the cars in position now. Dan Ticktum on the right, Ye Yifei on the left, pointing slightly inwards as he did in race 1 when he actually got the jump on Dan Ticktum. So the red lights are on and the red lights are out, and we go racing here in Buriram, and Ye Yifei again with a fantastic start straight into first position. Dan Ticktum down to second. It looks as if Rinus VeeKay is just going up the inside of Alex Guiretti. They've all got through the first corner, not too much in the way of incident there, but a fantastic start from Ye Yifei, who's taken the lead from Dan Ticktum, who's now under pressure from Alex Guiretti, who's going around the outside, looking into turn 3. Rinus VeeKay in 4th position, looking to fend off the challenger there. But as they go through the hairpin, it's Ye Yifei in the lead. Alex Guiretti and Dan Ticktum side by side, wheel to wheel, as they go onto this long straight up to turn 4, the kink at turn 4, which is completely flat. But Ye Yifei with a good lead so far. Another fantastic start from the Chinese driver. Alex Guiretti going inside Dan Ticktum. They go side by side. Dan Ticktum off to the right-hand side, and Guiretti has just held that position. So Alex Guiretti up into second, Dan Ticktum down to third. Rinus VeeKay still in 4th place. In 5th place, number 15, Eshan Pieris, and Dan Ticktum going by Guiretti, who's slowing down. It looks as if he's got some sort of problem, perhaps a puncture. I can't see, but it looks as if Alex Guiretti, unfortunately for the young Frenchman, is out of contention early in the race. But Ye Yifei now building a big lead on this first lap from Dan Ticktum in second. Rinus VeeKay, the number 21 car, in 3rd place. And Tomoki Takahashi now up into 4th place from 6th on the grid. And that is Alessandro Guiretti. And it looks, unfortunately for the Frenchman, as if that is a terminal problem. And that is a very disappointing result so early in the race. He was going very well up into 2nd position. And unfortunately, it looks as if Alessandro Guiretti's race is run. So Ye Yifei up at the front, pulling out quite a lead now over Dan Ticktum. The Chinese driver was very impressive in race 1, taking the lead for several laps before Rinus VeeKay overtook him, and then unfortunately for the Chinese driver, he had to retire. In race 2, he was going very well indeed towards the second half of the race in particular, overtaking Dan Ticktum into 2nd position and then catching very, very quickly Rinus VeeKay. And he said after the race that if he just had a couple more laps, perhaps he could have caught and passed Rinus VeeKay for the win. But Ye Yifei going very well indeed. A little bit of a traffic jam at the back there. The number 2 car of Pavan Ravishankar holding up a few of the others, but up front, no such problems for Ye Yifei, who's taken the lead and has a nice little cushion now before Dan Ticktum comes through in 2nd position. And that, well, we can't see who that is. I wonder if that is Alessandro Guiretti, having made it through to the pit straight. Hopefully we'll get another view of that later. But as they come through, and you can see the safety car is coming out. The yellow flags and the SC board there, that means the safety car is out. So that car that's pulled over, obviously the stewards have decreed that that's in a dangerous position, and that is the number 1 car. That is Alessandro Guiretti, who's made it round to the pit straight, but obviously has parked in a rather dangerous position. There you see the safety car, that Porsche with the flashing lights at the front. Now that essentially neutralizes the race, so all the drivers will have to file behind the safety car. There's no overtaking allowed, and until that car of Alessandro Guiretti is safely stowed away into the pit lane, which the marshals are helpfully doing now, the safety car will be out and there'll be no overtaking. You see the cars circulating at a much reduced pace. Hopefully the marshals will be able to clear Alessandro Guiretti's car out of the way before too long. Here we see a replay, and it looked as if Guiretti did manage to get his car going again, but then stopped for good on the start-finish straight. Hopefully that will all be cleared away before these cars come round and the safety car can come in and we can go racing again here in Buriram. Number 29 car there of Akash Nandi started in 7th place and still in 7th place there. The number 2 car of Pavan Ravishankar in 6th position, up 2 places from 8th on the grid. And let's see a replay of the start now. And Ye Yifei, a carbon copy of race 1 really, when he was pointing slightly inward from 2nd position on the grid, but got a much better start and managed to jump pole sitter Dan Ticktum just as he did on Friday. And Ye Yifei still in the lead. Dan Ticktum there fighting with Alessandro Guiretti. Now I wonder if we might see if there was some contact there between Alessandro Guiretti and Dan Ticktum, or indeed any of the other cars, because Alessandro Guiretti looked like he was going very well indeed in the early portion of the race and then suddenly pulled off, and we didn't quite see what happened, but I wonder if perhaps there was a bit of damage. Now the cars all bunched up very close there. The safety car, I think, is in this lap. So Ye Yifei, yes, Ye Yifei going around the last corner now. And we're racing again. You see the green flag being waved there. And racing underway here in race 3 in Buriram. And Ye Yifei still in the lead. Dan Ticktum in 2nd. And that is David Schumacher looking to go up the inside of Takahashi. And it looks as if he made that move stick. So David Schumacher up into 4th place now, ahead of Takahashi down to 5th. Ye Yifei, the Chinese driver, the number 16, still in the lead. Dan Ticktum in the 27 car still in 2nd place. You see the cars taking a wide line through turn 3. A bit of locking up there from Amaury Cordial in the 88 car. You see a lot of the cars going in 2 or even 3 abreast. There's a lot of overtaking possibilities into that turn 3 hairpin. But as they come through turn 4, this flat-out left-hand kink, it's still Ye Yifei in the lead. And that is Akash Nandi, the number 29, fending off Amaury Cordial. Lots of close racing going on back in the pack there. But Ye Yifei still in the lead from Dan Ticktum, who's a lot closer than he was before the safety car came out. So perhaps the English driver just taking stock a little bit, and now ready to come back and attack for the lead once again. We thought he was going to do so in race 2, but he seemed to mysteriously lose a bit of pace in the middle of the race and drop back, and then eventually finished only 3rd on the road, which translated to 6th in the overall classification after his 10-second time penalty was imposed. But Dan Ticktum still in 2nd place, still just behind Ye Yifei, and no need to panic just yet. Still plenty of racing to be done. We've had 8 minutes so far, and you can see at the top of your picture there, 22 minutes still to go. And one of the consequences of having a safety car period in the race is that when the safety car leaves the track and the racing resumes, the cars are invariably a lot closer together than they were before. And that can produce some very good close racing indeed for the first few laps afterwards. You saw in the last lap a lot of cars going side by side or even 3 abreast through that turn 3 hairpin. And with 1/3 or just under 1/3 of the race having been completed, a lot of the cars still running nose to tail very closely together. Akash Nandi there, the number 29 car, still in 7th place. And that is the 65 car of David Schumacher, who started in 10th place and is now up to 4th. So David Schumacher so far this weekend is gaining a good reputation as somebody who makes up a lot of places in the race, because he finished 3rd in race 2, having started 9th on the grid. We spoke to him on the grid and he said that he was hoping to make up some good places, and he did just that in race 2, and it seems that he's carrying on that good form into race 3. David Schumacher up to 4th from 10th on the grid, and Ye Yifei up into 1st from 2nd on the grid. And he comes through to start another lap now with Dan Ticktum still just behind, but not close enough to make a move yet. But one man who is close enough to make a move is Amaury Cordeel, just behind Ravi Shankar in 6th position. That's the battle for 5th, but Ravi Shankar just managing to hold it. Cordeel just had a little look up the inside of turn 1, but I don't think he was close enough really to make a move. You see, and a big lock up there from Amaury Cordeel. You see the cars taking a very wide line into that turn 3, and it's very important to get a good drive out of turn 3, because this long straight that they're on at the moment, if you get a bad exit out of turn 3, that compromises you on this long straight. And if you have somebody just behind you, as Ravi Shankar does with Cordeel there, then the person behind you can get much better drive out of that corner and has a very good chance of making a passing move on the straight. So perhaps one reason why you're seeing the cars going in very deep in turn 3, maybe sacrificing a bit of entry speed in order to get good drive and a good exit out of that turn 3 onto the long straight that follows it. But Ye Yifei still sitting pretty in 1st place. All looks very serene at the moment. Dan Ticktum just behind in 2nd, and Rinus VeeKay in 3rd position. VeeKay, who won the previous 2 races and now holds a rather handsome lead in the championship standings. I wonder if he might be content just to play for points and just sit back and settle for 3rd place while Ye Yifei and Ticktum battle it out at the front. But at the moment, Ye Yifei just managing to hold Dan Ticktum at bay. The Englishman not really close enough to make a passing move there. You see them all going very deep into that turn 3 with the aim of getting a good exit. A very, very long corner, that turn 3, and lots of runoff. So a lot of cars going a bit too deep sometimes and running a little wide. But with that runoff there, it's not as terminal to do that as it would be if there was a gravel trap there. And then you'd simply end up beached in the gravel and with the race run. The Absolute Racing pit crew there, probably very pleased with what they're seeing from their driver, Ye Yifei, right at the front. There he is. And no drama from Ye Yifei. All very calm, very collected. We've not seen him lock up or slide or anything untidy. It's all been very, very neat and tidy indeed. And sometimes when it's very neat and tidy, that's actually the fastest way to drive. Although locking up and sliding all over the place may look very spectacular, that actually in a lot of cases doesn't help you go quicker. And Ye Yifei driving very sensibly at the front so far. 17 more minutes still to go. Dan Ticktum still in 2nd position, and Rinus VeeKay still in 3rd. David Schumacher just behind there. You can see at the back of the back of your picture in what looks like a rather lonely 4th place. He's not particularly close to Rinus VeeKay in front, but he's got a decent gap to Amaury Cordeel, who is now in 5th position behind. So Amaury Cordeel having got past Pavan Ravishankar, who now is down to 6th place. In 7th position, the number 29 car of Akash Nandi, and in 8th place, Tomoki Takahashi in the Super License car. In 9th position is the Hungarian driver Vivian Kastei in the number 7 car, and 10th Tairoku Yamaguchi in the B-Max racing team, rounding out the top 10. But up at the front, it's still Yifei in the lead. Dan Ticktum still in second position as they go through this twisty infield complex of the track where overtaking is very difficult. And that is the number 15 car of Eshan Pieris. Again, very, very bad luck for the Sri Lankan driver. It looks as if his race is run. He didn't even get to start the last race. He stalled on the grid, some sort of mechanical problem, and unfortunately wasn't able to start. And poor old Eshan Pieris, again, it looks as if he won't be able to finish this race. So bitter disappointment for the Sri Lankan driver there. 16 more minutes to go in race 3, and Ye Yifei just opening up a little bit of a gap to Dan Ticktum in second place. Further down the field, this is Vivian Castay, the number 7, and she's fending off the challenge of 28 Tairoku Yamaguchi. These two fighting it out in 9th and 10th positions at the moment. Vivian Castay we spoke to earlier this weekend. This is her first ever outing in a single-seater car. She's only ever previously driven GT cars and touring cars, and single-seaters are a very different kettle of fish. And here we are, a good battle between Pavan Ravishankar and Akash Nandi going around the outside, the number 29 car, and he's just got the position, but I wonder if he may have to give that position back. It looked as if he may have had all 4 wheels over the white line, and Yamaguchi, the Japanese driver, going up the inside of Ravishankar, so Pavan Ravishankar lost a couple of places there. The 81 of Takahashi, beg your pardon, not Yamaguchi, Tomoki Takahashi, the number 81 Japanese driver, up now into 8th position. Akash Nandi in 7th. And the Malaysian driver in the orange and blue car rounding the final corner now. And Takahashi, let's see if he can close up on the Malaysian driver. Pavan Ravishankar down to 8th place now. So the Singaporean driver will be disappointed to lose 2 places in very quick succession. Some good opportunist driving there from Takahashi. He saw those two squabbling and decided to take advantage when Ravishankar was somewhat out of sorts after having been overtaken by Akash Nandi. The number 29 car, the Malaysian driver, now up into 6th position in this race 3. The lead is going through your picture there. It looked to me as if Dan Ticktum may be slightly closer to Ye Yifei than he had been on the previous lap or two. But the number 29 car of Akash Nandi there going through. The Malaysian driver who last year finished 6th in the F3 Asian Championship. Still managing to hold off the Japanese driver Takahashi, who also finished or competed in the F3 Asian Championship last year, finishing just ahead of Akash Nandi in 5th position overall in the table. So those two clearly getting to know each other once again very closely indeed in this Asian Winter Series. There we see a good, nice close-up shot of the number 2 car of Pavan Ravishankar, who last year competed in British Formula 3, the Singaporean driver. "13 minutes to go, just under 13 minutes to go in this race 3 of round 1 of the 2019 Asia Winter Series. Here we see the Hungarian driver Vivian Castay in 9th position, and just behind her Tairoku Yamaguchi, the Japanese driver in the B-Max racing team car, bringing up the rear. In terms of retirements, we saw Eshan Pieris being wheeled in just now. The Sri Lankan driver, unfortunately for him, failing to finish once again after having failed to take the start in race 2 earlier today. And then on the first lap, Alessandro Giretti, we saw suddenly pull to one side on the side of the start-finish line, and that brought out the safety car that we saw earlier, which bunched the pack up. Thankfully, The safety car only stayed out for one lap. We were able to go racing again very quickly indeed. Vivian Castay still in 9th place, just ahead of Tairoku Yamaguchi. The only competitor in the Masters category this weekend here in Buriram. 12 drivers on the grid overall. We're hoping to have a few more next weekend in Sepang, 15 or 16. And then for round 3, for the final 3 races, which also takes place in Sepang late in February, we'll hope to have a grid of around 20 cars. This is obviously a new championship. There's a lot of unknowns, and this is the very first race. So maybe after this round is completed, we'll see more people wanting to join this Asia Winter Series. We've seen some fantastic racing so far this weekend, and some very good driving indeed. Everybody thought that Dan Ticktum, who is the most decorated driver on the grid, a 2-time winner of the F3 Macau Grand Prix, everybody thought Dan Ticktum would run away with it, but it's not been the case at all. And Ye Yifei, who is leading this race, who has led right from the start, is one driver in particular who's been very impressive, along of course with Rinus VeeKay, who stands in 3rd position at the moment in this race and was the winner of the first 2 races, and currently leads the championship by quite a considerable margin after having 2 victories in the first 2 races, maximum points. But as they come through the final corner now, Ye Yifei with Dan Ticktum just behind, it looks as if the British driver is a little bit closer this time round. Perhaps Dan Ticktum starting to just reel in Ye Yifei, and Rinus VeeKay a little bit further behind in 3rd position. Dan Ticktum in the first race was a little bit erratic, was running wide and locking up and losing places, and I wonder if in this race 3 he's just being a little bit more circumspect, just hanging back a little bit, perhaps looking after his tyres and brakes and keeping his engine temperatures down. It is after all very hot here in Thailand, and just keeping everything cool to make an advance on Ye Yifei in this last portion of the race. He certainly does look closer as they go through the kink there at turn 4. We look back there at the number 65 car of David Schumacher, and he's under pressure there from around Amaury Cordeel. Schumacher going defensive, and Cordeel looking as if he fancies a way past the German driver as they go through turn 5 and now into turn 6. But very difficult to overtake in this infield twisty section of the track. Cordeel just kicking up a little bit of dust off the curb there. And David Schumacher just managing to maintain a little bit of a breathing space between him and the Belgian driver as they come through this final part of the infield complex. Approaching the final corner now, but I don't think Cordeel is close enough to make a move, no. Just a little bit too far away as they come through the final corner to start another lap. 8.5 minutes to go. Still Ye Yifei in the lead, Dan Ticktum in 2nd, and Rinus VeeKay in 3rd. And the real battle on track at the moment is for 4th position here. But Dan Ticktum a little bit closer now to Ye Yifei, just slowly reeling in the Chinese driver. He just looked as if he'd had a little look up the inside of turn 3, perhaps just making sure that Ye Yifei knows that he's there. I'm sure Ye Yifei doesn't need reminding. He's driven very well so far this race. He's driven very calmly, not made any mistakes, not locked up, not run wide. But Dan Ticktum does look as if he's getting closer, as does Amaury Cordeel. Look as if he's getting much closer behind David Schumacher, because they're side by side as they go through turn 4. Cordeel on the outside, Schumacher on the inside. Schumacher fending off the Belgian driver, just holding the inside line there, going defensive. And Cordeel looking as if he is quicker than David Schumacher at this point in the race, but can't find a way through. Schumacher going defensive, doing all the right things there to stay ahead of Cordeel and maintain his position. And again, as they go through this infield section, it's going to be very, very difficult for Cordeel to make a passing move unless David Schumacher makes a mistake, and he's not done that so far. And here they come again. Cordeel closer this time, and Schumacher having to go defensive to protect the inside line in case Cordeel fancied a lunge up the inside. But as they come through the start-finish line with just under 7 minutes to go, David Schumacher still holding on to 4th place. Cordeel still in 5th position. And it'll be interesting to see as well whether Dan Ticktum can make any inroads into Ye Yifei. And indeed, he's going around the outside of turn 3 now. Dan Ticktum, has he made it stick? And it looks as if, no, Dan Ticktum running wide. Perhaps a little bit over-enthusiastic there, Dan Ticktum. Ye Yifei took to the inside of turn 3. They went in side by side. Dan Ticktum taking that popular outside line, but just going a little bit too far wide. But still in 2nd place, and he'll, I would think, fancy his chances of another go at Ye Yifei in the next lap or two. But Dan Ticktum clearly a little bit impatient now behind Ye Yifei. He clearly feels it's time to make a move on the Chinese driver, who, as I say, has driven very sensibly, driven very well, not made any mistakes so far. But now it does appear as if Dan Ticktum is starting to turn the screw, as has Amaury Cordeel on David Schumacher, the two that we see in the picture now, the Belgian driver. And here we see a replay, Dan Ticktum going in very deep, perhaps just taking a little bit too much speed into that corner because he ran wide. You see him there going off onto the runoff area, and Ye Yifei lives to fight another day in 1st position. But Dan Ticktum not far behind the Chinese driver as they come down to start another lap. And as a result of all that excitement, it does look as if Rinus VeeKay in 3rd place has closed up to Dan Ticktum. So in the last 5 minutes of this race, it'll be very good to see if we have a 3-way battle for the lead, and that will be a fantastic way to sign off this round 1 of the 2019 Asian Winter Series, this final race of 3 races here this weekend. David Schumacher there looks as if he's got the measure of Amaury Cordeel for the time being, at least. The Belgian driver just having dropped back a little. And this is the battle we really want to see between the front 3 of Ye Yifei there, the Chinese driver, Dan Ticktum in 2nd place, and in 3rd position the Dutch driver Rinus VeeKay, who won the first 2 races here this weekend. Ye Yifei still in 1st position. Dan Ticktum not quite as close as he was in the previous lap, but maybe just taking stock for a lap or so before going to attack the Chinese driver Ye Yifei again. Perhaps leading up to another attack at turn 3, the hairpin. That does seem to be a very popular spot indeed. Coming round to approach the last corner now to begin another lap. Just under 4 minutes to go. So, by my reckoning, that would be 3 more laps of this Chang International Circuit if they carry on at their current pace. Ye Yifei still in the lead, Dan Ticktum still in 2nd place, Rinus VeeKay still in 3rd. And the 3 of them there all in the same shot. Even after half an hour or nearly half an hour's racing, the 3 of them still very close together. Some great racing here this weekend. Dan Ticktum going around the outside, Ye Yifei going defensive, and I wonder if he's just gone a little wide, but Dan Ticktum locking up there. I don't think Dan Ticktum was expecting Ye Yifei to cut across him like that and had to brake extra hard, and you saw the tyre smoke there from Dan Ticktum's front tyres. Ye Yifei clearly feeling the pressure now. You saw him go to the inside of turn 3. I didn't think Dan Ticktum was close enough to make a move on Ye Yifei, but the Chinese driver clearly felt it was better to go defensive. Now that compromised his exit, and you saw Dan Ticktum was much faster, and I think Ye Yifei's slow exit took Dan Ticktum a little bit by surprise, and that's why he locked up his tyres there as they went through the exit of the corner. But no matter, Ye Yifei still in the lead, just holding off from Dan Ticktum, fighting this way and that to try and overtake the Chinese driver. I doubt he'll get him in this infield section. It's very tight and twisty, not a lot of opportunity for overtaking. But they come up to the last corner now. Dan Ticktum, I think, is a little too far behind for a move there. Yes, he is. Further down the field, here we are, and it looks as if Cordeel, yes, the 88 car has got past David Schumacher. So the Belgian driver, after many laps of trying, has got past David Schumacher, but a little lock up there. And Schumacher, the German driver, now coming back at Cordial. He's going behind him to try and get into the toe in his slipstream. Cordial going defensive, now moving back to take his racing line as they go through the first turn. David Schumacher closing up behind him. It looked as if Schumacher got slightly better drive off that first turn, and the leader's out going through turn 3. Ye Yifei going defensive again. Dan Ticktum trying to get past, and I wonder if he can get him on the straight here. It looked as if Dan Ticktum got a better drive out of that last corner. They're going side by side. Dan Ticktum pulling out. Ye Yifei again going defensive to the inside. They're going to be side by side through turn 4, and Ye Yifei has just held it, I think. Dan Ticktum going a little wide, and a little bit of a slide on there for Dan Ticktum. Ye Yifei just holding on to first position, but Dan Ticktum asking a lot of questions of the Chinese driver in this final portion of the race. There should, I think, be one lap after this, so if Dan Ticktum is going to make his do-or-die move down turn 3, it's going to be now or never as they come around for what I think will be the final lap. You see Ye Yifei sliding a little bit as they go through the twisty infield. But Dan Ticktum still in second place, Rinus VeeKay still in third place. They're coming around the final corner now. Dan Ticktum, I don't think, will want to make a move here. I think he'll be saving himself, just getting all his lines right so that he can have a big push through to try to get past at that turn 3 hairpin. You saw the sign there, the marshals holding out the last lap board, and Ye Yifei still in the lead. And Dan Ticktum looked as if he was a little bit further behind that lap. And I don't think Dan Ticktum is close enough for a move. No. Ye Yifei taking his normal wide line into that corner, not going defensive this time. Dan Ticktum just a little bit too far behind. And I wonder if Ye Yifei has now just done enough to hold off Dan Ticktum and take the victory in race 3 here at the Chang International Circuit. Dan Ticktum still in second place, but not close enough. Ye Yifei, again, no need to go defensive. Last lap we saw them go side by side there. Dan Ticktum just forced off by Ye Yifei, protecting the inside line, going defensive. Rinus VeeKay, of course, the Dutch driver, still in third position. But I think Ye Yifei might just have held on to take his first win this weekend. The Chinese driver still in the lead there. Very difficult to pass in this twisty infield section. And Ye Yifei really has driven a very good defensive race here today. He took the lead from Dan Ticktum, got a very, very good start, and then had to deal with immense pressure from the English driver as they went through the rest of the race, but he managed to hold on, and Ye Yifei wins race 3 here in Buriram. Dan Ticktum takes second place, and Rinus VeeKay rounds out the top 3 in third position. The Absolute Racing team there, Ye Yifei's crew, very, very happy with their man. Further down, Amaury Cordale takes 4th place, David Schumacher 5th. In 6th position is the number 29 of Akash Nandi. 7th is Tomoki Takahashi, the Japanese driver. And in 8th place, Pavan Ravishankar in the number 2 high-tech Grand Prix car. Rounding out the top 10 will be Vivian Castay in the number 7 and Tairoku Yamaguchi in 10th place. The Absolute Racing crew there, Ye Yifei's teammates, his crew members, his mechanics and engineers, all understandably very, very happy with the result. Dan Ticktum there, the series favourite, has not managed to win any of these first 3 races, and I don't think there's many people who would have predicted that before the weekend started. Dan Ticktum, the most decorated of all the drivers on the grid, a 2-time Macau Grand Prix winner, and very much in the thinking of the Red Bull Formula 1 team. There was talk of him being granted a race seat at the Toro Rosso team in Formula 1. If not for this year, then certainly for next year. So Dan Ticktum, very highly thought of in motorsport circles, but he's not managed to get the win today, and really that says a lot about the standard of driving here this weekend from the likes of Rinus VeeKay, who won the first 2 races, and he's started a very successful racing career in America. He was the 2018 Pro Mazda champion, and some good racing also from Ye Yifei, the Chinese driver. Just 18 years of age, but already a lot of single-seater experience, especially in Europe. He's raced in Formula 4 in France and in Italy. In 2016, he was the French Formula 4 champion. He also competed sporadically in the F3 Asian Championship last year. And we see the top 3 drivers there taking their places on the starting grid. Nice to see as well that the top 3 positions won't be changed after the race. There'll be no post-race penalties imposed. We saw Dan Ticktum in race 2 earlier today, finished 3rd on the road, but only 6th after he had a 10-second penalty for exceeding track limits. Thankfully, the first 3 cars that you saw take the checkered flag are the first 3 cars to have been classified. So no need for any penalties to be imposed there. Ye Yifei receiving the congratulations of his team there. Dan Ticktum in the foreground, talking to his team members. And at the back of the picture there, Rinus VeeKay only managing to finish 3rd after having won the first couple of races. But that still means that he has quite a handsome lead in the championship as we conclude this round 1 here at the Chang International Circuit in Buriram. Ye Yifei there having a debrief with his team, his mechanics and his engineers. And he drove a very, very good race indeed. Didn't really put a foot wrong and defended very well from Dan Ticktum, who put him under immense pressure, especially in the second half of the race, in the last 10 minutes or so. Going very deep round the outside on the penultimate lap. And Rinus VeeKay in 3rd position, the car that you see on the right-hand side of your picture. And let's hear from the drivers now on the grid.
Ye Yifei, congratulations, a great start and a great race. Yes, earlier today you told me you were a little bit disappointed with the result of the 2nd place. Are you happy now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, winning is always the greatest thing that can happen. Yeah, I had a very good start. I took the lead even before turn 1, and then I built a very good gap from lap 1. Unfortunately, there was a safety car that interrupted the race, and yeah, I lost my lead. Like was 1 second or 1 second half, and then after the safety car, I just did my best to build up that gap again. But yeah, I think towards the end of the race, we started to struggle with the tires, so I had to defend off Daniel, who was coming quick behind, and yeah, it was a difficult fight, but at the end we made it, so I'm very happy about it.
Congratulations. 刚刚呢，我是问到了叶一飞，就是他昨天在稍早一些的比赛当中，他提到他有点对第2名的成绩有点失望。不过他也提到呢，今天呢他的起步非常的顺利，而且在比赛当中呢一直都是领先的位置。不过在安全车出动的时候呢，他稍微就是失去了一点领先优势，失去了1分半左右的领先优势。而且到后面呢，单的攻击也是非常的强，他的轮胎的损耗也是非常的严重。不过非常的幸运，他还是最后拿到了冠军。
Yes, a very good race from Ye Yifei there. Clearly using his several years of experience of single-seater racing, using all of his experience to keep Dan Ticktum behind him. And Dan Ticktum we'll hear from very shortly indeed. Not managing to win any of the first 3 races here this weekend, and not a lot of people would have thought that. Dan Ticktum, I would think, would not be in the best of moods, but we'll probably hear from him in the near future. Rinus VeeKay, I would think, would be rather happier with his weekend's work. 2 wins and a 3rd place and a lead in the Drivers' Championship as we now head to Sepang next weekend. And Feline is now down on the grid with Dan Ticktum.
Hi Dan, not a great weekend for you so far, but you still got 2nd place this race. Tell me about your whole weekend.
Well, it's been a disaster.
Anything more? But I heard you still have some debates with Ye Yifei's team.
For most of the race, it was like it was raining for me because there was a lot. Because there was a lot of oil coming out of the back of the car, of his car. If you look at the front of my car, you can see all the oil. So, for me, there is something. I don't know, something wrong with his car, but apart from that, there's nothing else to say. Second is not where I should be finishing, and the other two races I had in the weekend were shit set of tyres, and I got hit off by my teammate in the first one, so that was it. Disastrous weekend for me, and yeah, that's it really.
Okay, thank you. 刚刚我是问到他呢，因为他这个整个比赛周的成绩都不是非常的好，我也问到他最后的感觉怎么样，他也是提到呢，我刚刚也是问到他和叶一飞的团队好像有一些争执，那么他也是提到呢，因为叶一飞的车在开始的时候后面跑了很多油，他的车的前端也是有很多的油就接触到很多油，影响了他的成绩。那么到最后怎么判决呢？我们还是要等一下之后看 Stewart 那边有没有一些其他的判断。
Well, Dan Ticktum obviously very annoyed with how his weekend's gone, as he said there, not where he feels he should be finishing, and apologies for the rather colourful language that he used to describe his weekend there. But still, there's plenty more racing to come in this 2019 Asian Winter Series. We have 6 more races to go. 3 in Sepang in Malaysia next weekend, and then 3 more later on in February. So plenty of opportunity for Dan Ticktum to fight his way back up in the standings. In 3rd position today, Rinus VeeKay, the Dutch driver who won the first 2 races this weekend, and he's now down on the grid with Feline.
Hey Rinus, congratulations. It seems like a great weekend for you, and you have seems very calm and look at the battles in front of you. How do you think about this race?
Yeah, it was a good race. I had a little bit of a disadvantage with the older tires, where Yifei had tires where he didn't do all the laps with in race 1. But yeah, it was a really good race, really consistent, and I think race pace-wise was almost perfect.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
那么刚刚我是问到他对于他来讲呢，这个比赛周其实是一个非常不错的结果，2个第1名，1个第3名的成绩。他也是提到呢，他今天呢其实是用的是一条旧的轮胎，所以呢其实影响了他的发挥。而且叶一飞的就是起步也是非常的顺利，那么他的就是在后面保持一个非常好的节奏，拿到了第3名的成绩。
Well, Rinus VeeKay a lot happier with how his weekend has gone than Dan Ticktum was. Obviously happy to settle for 3rd place after having a couple of race victories earlier on. And Rinus VeeKay now takes the lead in the championship, and it'll be very interesting to see next weekend in Sepang whether Dan Ticktum can start to make inroads into that lead. There we see the classification. Ye Yifei winning the race, Dan Ticktum in 2nd place, Rinus VeeKay 3rd, Amaury Cordeel managing to overtake David Schumacher to finish 4th, the German driver just behind in 5th, Takahashi, the number 81, in 6th, then Akash Nandi in 7th, Pavan Ravishankar in 8th, and then bringing up the rear, Vivian Kastei and Tairoku Yamaguchi in 10th position. And then the 2 non-finishers, Eshan Pieres, another very disappointing race for him after failing to even take the start in race 2, and Alessandro Giretti also failing to finish after suddenly slowing on the first lap, and that ended up bringing out the safety car. So all in all, some tremendous racing so far in this round 1 of the Asian Winter Series. Lots of action and some surprising results. I think everybody thought that Dan Ticktum by now would have, if not won all the races, would certainly have been on the top step of the podium at least once and have taken the championship lead. It's not worked out that way for the Englishman, and he was obviously very disappointed with how things have gone. As he said, not where he thinks he should be finishing. By contrast, Ye Yifei, the Chinese driver, has had a very, very good weekend, winning this race, leading the first race before retiring, and he now takes the top step of the podium there with his very patriotic Chinese flag. And that's a position that I think he would want to assume much, much more often in this Asian Winter Series. Dan Ticktum there in second place, looking a little bit cheesed off with how things have gone. And Rinus VeeKay rounding out the top three. And I should think he'll be a lot more satisfied with his weekend than Dan Ticktum has been. Davide De Gobi, the series director there, giving Ye Yifei his trophy for first place. And then congratulating Dan Ticktum and Rinus VeeKay as well. Dan Ticktum receiving his second place trophy there, and I should think he won't want to be seeing too many more of them. He'll be wanting to stand on the top step next time in Sepang, and he'll be wanting to win this championship. He feels that he should be the champion, that he's more experienced than all the other drivers, and that's where he should be. Rinus VeeKay taking his third place trophy and looking very happy with how his weekend's gone, and well he might. The three of them now enjoying a quick photo opportunity. And now taking to the podium is Tairoku Yamaguchi, the only competitor this weekend in the Masters category. Next weekend in Sepang, as I said, we're expecting more entries, and then more entries still for the third round, also in Sepang in late February. But overall, a very good first round of the Asian Winter Series here in Buriram. Some excellent racing, some close racing, lots of action up and down the field, and a few surprising results as well. And Dan Ticktum clearly in no mood to spray the champagne after finishing second today. Clearly feels that he should have been first. But Ye Yifei and Rinus VeeKay enjoying themselves on the podium in the time-honored tradition. And some good racing up and down the field today in race 3. And let's take a look at some of the best action from race 3 here at the Buriram International Circuit in Thailand. Dan Ticktum from pole position on the right-hand side of your picture got jumped there by Ye Yifei, who took the lead just as he had done in race 1. So going into the first corner, it was Ye Yifei in the lead from Dan Ticktum, and the Chinese driver not to be headed throughout the course of the race. Alessandro Guiretti going side by side with Dan Ticktum there. It looked as if he was going to join the party up front, but unfortunately for the Frenchman, shortly after, he suddenly slowed and then pulled to a halt, and that brought out the safety car. Lots of action going into turn 3. Turn 3 is a favourite overtaking spot there. We saw lots of cars going 2 or 3 wide into that corner. That was Alessandro Guiretti pulling to one side in a move that brought out the safety car and then bunched the pack up. And as Ye Yifei said on the grid just there, he was very disappointed to lose his advantage that he had built up in the opening lap or so. When he came back in, or when the safety car came in rather, His lead that he had built up over Dan Ticktum was negated, and he had to pull out a lead again over the Englishman. Dan Ticktum saying after the race that he felt slightly aggrieved that there was a lot of oil coming out of Ye Yifei's car, and that made it very difficult to drive, very slippery. But Ye Yifei managed to hold on till the end, although Dan Ticktum came very close. This was on the penultimate lap. Dan Ticktum going around the outside, but not managing to stay on track. Ye Yifei just holding off, and Dan Ticktum ultimately having to settle for second place. Here we see him again going around the outside, but again, not enough road. Ye Yifei driving very defensively, and no way through for Dan Ticktum. So the English driver having to settle for second place behind Ye Yifei, who came through to take his first win in the 2019 Asia Winter Series. Dan Ticktum in second place, and then Rinus VeeKay, after having won the first couple of races, had to settle for third place in this race. Some very good racing up and down the grid here in Buriram at the Chang International Circuit. Always nice to get some racing in what is the European winter. Dan Ticktum told us yesterday that he was very happy to be given the opportunity to do some competitive racing. Otherwise, the European racing season tends to stop in about October or November and doesn't start again until March or April. So that's 4 or 5 months without any serious racing going on. Whereas coming here gives the drivers an opportunity to get some valuable track time over these winter months, and also some valuable super license points. Dan Ticktum went on record as saying that the main reason he wanted to compete in the Asia Winter Series was in order to gain some more all-important super license points in order to help fulfill his dream of one day driving in Formula One. Lots of other drivers coming over from Europe to drive in the Asia Winter Series. And now let's hear from today's top 3 drivers in the post-race press conference.
Hey guys, congratulations on completion of the round 1 of Asian Winter Series at Buriram. One of those interesting tracks that I'm sure we're all enjoying and we're getting used to one way or another. Ye Yifei, congratulations for your victory. It was a great weekend for you. You had a really, really strong end to last season testing. For race 2, you got second, and now you finally got your victory. How was your race?
Well, after all the practice sessions, we knew we were competitive. The key point is just to get the right setup for the race and make sure that we have the strong pace throughout the race. And yeah, this morning I think our pace was really strong towards the end, whereas in the race this afternoon I think we started quite early to struggle with the tires. So I think overall it was a very good weekend, and yeah, winning is the best thing that can happen. And but it still is a long championship, although there are only 3 rounds. And yeah, the goal is just to keep the same form and yeah, catch up the leader. And yeah.
Thank you, Yifei. Daniel, congratulations on your second place, and welcome to the Asian Winter Series. It's a huge asset having you here. How was the race for you?
Yeah, not great. It was all right. I think the whole weekend has been not ideal from my point of view. It happens, but a few mistakes I made as well, which is always the way. But I think I had a bit more bad luck. The luck was just not on my side this weekend, shall we say. You mentioned the track. Track limit's been a problem all weekend, and that's because it's a motorbike track. It's designed with lots of runoff, as are a lot of FIA tracks these days. So no, it's not great, to be honest, because for many reasons, I won't go into it, but yeah, not the best weekend, but like we say, still another 6 races to go, so.
In any case, great having you here, and congratulations on your second place.
Thank you.
Rinus, 1-1-3, not a bad way to start the Asian Winter Series. How was your race?
Yeah, it was quite a good race. Had a good start. I was lucky with my teammate number 1 falling out, and yeah, I think I had a disadvantage with all tires and was really consistent and just, yeah, I'm happy with that. Good pace. I think it was just not enough to keep up with Yifei and with Daniel. But for the rest, yeah, very, very good weekend overall. Yeah, didn't expect to have 2 wins and a 3rd place, and yeah, now just keep going and try to go for the championship.
Congratulations to all 3 of you again, and hope to see you in Sepang for round 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, picture this.